defensively, making sure they stay stuck to his hip.
That's Tig. No one cuts him off. Put back Davis.
Wynn throws it to Kelsey. Kelsey's going to score.
Now throws it deep. Has a man open. Caught! Danny Cole all the way.
He's going to throw it. They got a fake, and they got Thomas wide open on the sidelines.
Throws, passes, picked off. Prince Amukamara, 20, 15. Prince is spinning around at the 12-yard line, still on his feet, 10, 5, and gets it driven down to the 1-yard line. And the Huskers have it at the 1 of the Sooners.
Whether or not college athletes should receive compensation for the skill and efforts that they bring to their universities seems to be a controversial topic among college officials. The National College Athletic Association, or NCAA, rakes in about $6 billion annually. These numbers come from sponsors, ticket and merchandise sales, along with television and marketing fees, which bring in the majority of the revenue for the NCAA. But the players themselves never see any of this money. These athletes risk career-ending injuries every time that they step onto the court, field, or rink, but receive no compensation for their hard work and dedication. Millions of people come to see these players in person, while millions more tune in on their television screens to see their favorite teams from the comfort of their homes. No matter how you look at it, these players are the primary reason for these jaw-dropping numbers. But just because they don't see any of this money in their personal bank accounts does not mean that they are not being taken care of. Statistics show that 96% of the NCAA's expenses benefit student athletes through services or direct distributions. Paying for students' travel expenses, injury insurance, the disbursement of more than $2.4 billion in scholarships and grants, along with other set programs for the benefits of the student athletes. So, the question is, should college athletes be paid, or do their universities adequately compensate them for their efforts? Full-ride scholarships, health and well-being services, travel expenses, along with all of the other perks and opportunities that are provided to student athletes leave many people questioning why players and their supporters believe they should receive payment.
Pretty fortunate to have a generous player like Ndamukong Suh to donate these iPods to us. We use them right now just to check our mail whenever the coaches want to communicate with us or anybody, they just send us a mail.
School is not an easy thing to pay for today. With tuition prices constantly on the rise, the fact that these players don't have to worry about those payments relieves many of the stresses that families have to deal with if they want their child to receive a college education. And when you put a price tag on players, it can have an effect on the dynamic of college sports. For example, take a star college player like Anthony Davis of the 2011-2012 Kentucky Wildcats, or the rising star Saquon Barkley of our very own Penn State Nittany Lions. We would expect them to be paid significantly more compared to the other players on the team according to their level of skill and the revenue that they are responsible for bringing into their universities. And with that in mind, it's feasible to think that paying these athletes would hurt the game, as well as the spirit of amateurism that is characteristic of college sports today.
I think you have young people, they need to be focused on their future, not on how much money we're sticking in their pockets right now. And some people like to play the game for the love of the game. Let's not diminish that either.
Also, paying players would not be a simple reallocation of resources. In fact, it could get very complicated.
You look at some of the smaller tier schools who aren't generating as much money as the larger schools. How do you handle that conversation? So I'm not saying that the NCAA should get a pass, but it is way more complicated than just handing out checks as well.
In order to maintain the best possible gyms, fields, and facilities, athletic programs require a lot of funding, part of which comes from the tuition that every student pays. Coaches and athletic directors' paychecks would likely take the hardest hit if players were paid, but there is a vital question that has not been successfully answered to date. Where would the additional money come from that would allow a player to make a profit, yet still have the same quality of training? Would paying college athletes really be beneficial? NCAA sports bring in an abundance of money through the many avenues that both the universities and players provide. Right here in Happy Valley, our Penn State football team was ranked the 12th most valuable football team in 2014. USA Today Sports show our total revenue of nearly $118 million, along with all of the other universities and colleges the NCAA collectively makes around $6 billion annually. With the disbursement of the funds through the universities, it would seem that all players are taken care of. It is no easy task to receive an NCAA sports scholarship. According to the NCAA recruitment database, over 800,000 high school senior athletes compete for nearly 42,000 freshman positions in NCAA sports, which means only about 2% of high school athletes receive sports scholarships every year. With such a small window of opportunity to play at the collegiate level, universities should support the few that make it through until the day that they graduate. These players are the backbone of their universities. Sports bring communities together, create school spirit, and most importantly, maintain the school's financial stability with the incredible revenue that their performances generate. From the merchandise sales to the sponsorship of big corporations like Nike and Adidas, it goes without saying that these players are a huge asset not only to their teams but to their schools. So should they profit from their performances? It would indeed be incredibly tricky for a university to pay its own athletes. However, there are alternatives to how a player could benefit. Right now, a student athlete playing in the NCAA is classified as an amateur, and therefore is not allowed to accept any payments or endorsements from companies. Their likeness is already used in video games, but they aren't being credited for it. Is it fair for companies to profit off a college athlete by using their face but not having to give anything to the player because they're not allowed to use their name? If the NCAA changed their rule on accepting endorsements, players could receive benefits without adding any fiscal pressure to the university. The controversial topic of paying student athletes seems to be at the peak of its social attention. The battle of opinions between the two sides is ongoing, and just like many controversial topics, the opposing sides still have yet to find a solution. In recent years, the issue has even made its way into court, where appeals to further compensate players have been struck down. However, that does not signify the end. Those who advocate in favor of paying college athletes are not giving up their efforts. College sports, especially men's football and basketball, bring in huge sums of money to their universities every year. The athletes play at a high level, yet they are still classified as amateurs. To some, that doesn't seem right, while to others, that classification is exactly as it should be. This debate raises many questions. Are collegiate athletics a path to an education or a future in sports? Isn't a free college education and added bonuses that come with being a student athlete compensation enough? But then, is it right for universities to revoke athletic scholarships in the case of an injury? Both sides make strong cases, but the issue will have to be resolved eventually. Sometime in our lifetime, it will be, and there is a chance that college sports as we know them today will change. Then we will have to make another decision. Was it for the better or for the worse?